Okay. We should be live now.
Great.
So, just to set things up, last week at the community committee, I announced to fellow committee members that given my current situation with work, I don't have the bandwidth to continue the role as champion of user feedback, and we're exploring what the next steps for user feedback are. We now have the Open.js initiative and the CPC there, and we still have the champion of enterprise user feedback, who's expressed interest in continuing that effort, though that individual hasn't been able to attend in a few sessions and isn't currently in this meeting. Joe, you mentioned before as we're getting started some thoughts that you had in potentially moving things over to the CPC. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so it seems like you're responsible or have been in the past for the overarching user feedback initiative, and it seems to me like it's kind of split into a few different areas. And considering we're asking for someone to step up for a time commitment on managing user feedback, that maybe it makes sense to break it up into smaller chunks that could have each its own champion. And so my thinking is perhaps I've mentioned in the past that maybe it makes sense to elevate the user feedback survey part of it, the actual execution of surveys for user feedback, elevate that up to the Open.js Foundation and perhaps under the Cross-Project Council, where it can be utilized by any project within the foundation, which to me I think makes sense. I'm sure lots of projects have lots of things they'd like to get more information on, and if we have a framework in place and are able to have foundation folks help us actually execute the survey and give us some guidance and gather the data and deliver it back in a usable format, then it seems to me to make sense that we kind of take that up a level, and I can try to continue championing that effort. Beyond that, it seems to me as though there is a perhaps two other areas that could have champions, and perhaps at least one of them already does, although we all get a little busy now and again. One being the enterprise feedback, and the other being the in-person user feedback sessions at meetups and such. So my suggestion is that maybe we break those things up. Maybe we don't even need like an overarching user feedback working group to oversee each of those. Maybe they just kind of do their own thing and report back as individual initiatives. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Excuse my ignorance on this, but does the CPC have a concept of initiatives and subgroups that like the community committee?
It does, and a couple are being
that can ebb and flow.
I believe so. We're fleshing out like a standards working group as well as an infrastructure working group. And I would imagine that like a user feedback survey working group could be there as well. I mean, maybe it's not so much a working group. I'd have to look at what the guidance is on particular initiatives. But it seems like, if not, then we can propose that we make that an available avenue that we could go down in some format.
Yeah, I think, there's certainly the concept of teams and delegating work to teams. This was always a team anyway, so I think like if the survey team makes sense to me at that level, because you're right that they're more than just Node would like surveys, and there is a good link with leveraging the foundation resources to put those out. So I think that's a good one. The suggestion of having them run separately makes sense to me. I mean, we don't necessarily need to get together if there's this being discussed moving forward. I think then, so we'd need the champion, or we need somebody at least to organize and be the contact for the
contact, right?
The survey one, and then we'd need to, if we were going to continue on the in-person feedback, like you mentioned, we'd need to find somebody who's to step up for that.
So that has been Joe, right? So Joe has been taking point on that.
Yeah. So Joe, if you're happy to champion that at the CP or lead it at the CPC level, that would make sense.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be the champion. Try to take it up a level. Ideally, my goal would be to have it be sort of self-service, and not need so much hand-holding, but still have a champion to lean on when something breaks down or what have you. I don't know if we're there yet, and in fact, on the way to this meeting, Michael, I was wondering about, there was something that someone was requesting a user feedback survey a few weeks ago, and I don't know if that sort of fell through the cracks, or if I missed something, or if we're still waiting on something on that one.
It was in the diagnostics group, but I think Peter said it's still on his plate to push that forward.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would love to facilitate a way for people to be able to be self-service, and we can still champion it as a team and make sure that people are available to it. But I'd like to have it kind of run itself in a way.
Yep. No, I think that's a great idea. I mean, and then that leaves the in-person feedback. And I still think that's important, but I can't step up at this point because I got enough other things going on. And I don't know that we have any other volunteers, so it may be that we just kind of put that on, we let that rest for a little while until we figure out or somebody steps up.
Can I ask, what is driving the in-person ones? And I'm not asking this to say that they're not valuable, but I want to figure out what the value is we're trying to extract from it, and then see how
the original goal was to try and form a closer relationship with end users. What I thought in mind was, like, if we could form a group of people who were interested users, kind of like the enterprise users who are like, hey, we use Node, we're interested, and then we can bounce things off of them. So when we have questions, we could bounce questions off them. We could have a little bit more engagement to try and hear from the pulse in terms of what, are they running into problems? So the goal was to have a closer contact with a set of real Node users that we could then, use to help us and make good decisions. We've tried a few different things, like we tried setting up a meeting where we invited people, and then we moved from that to trying to do it as part of our own meetup. And then, the most recent one is, we've done a few in-person, like in existing meetup ones. But I guess so far we haven't had tons of feedback, and we also haven't had like an ongoing relationship, which was kind of what I was hoping we would get to, right? Like, it's not so much about just meeting with people once and saying, hey, what are your problems? But building that link to the users was where I thought we'd get the real value.
Yeah, and Joe, for your connecting the dots with the discussions we've had in the last couple meetings here, you know, the enterprise group has had some pull. The sort of general user feedback space is something that we've basically tried to balance the interest that we see in the enterprise space with like what about everybody else, and there isn't a lot of pull there, whether it's in person, whether it's online. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of pain and need. Folks from the in-person sessions are relatively happy with the state of Node, able to get the latest and greatest Node, and kind of the depth of frustration is AWS Lambda is a bit slow on getting to the latest Node, right? But like not really stopping folks from shipping what they want.
Yeah. I wonder. I'm trying to think through what if there are other formats that might be more productive in terms of trying to facilitate this two-way conversation.
I want to flip the solutioneering around a bit, and kind of take to heart a comment that Tierney made in the community committee meeting last week. That his comment was, we need to do a better job at spinning down things when we're kind of done with them, and I think that might be the better takeaway here. Is like, this is something that we want, but we're not necessarily seeing we want as Node.js community members to have closer contact, but ultimately that has to serve an end user need, and we aren't seeing that pull. So like, why don't we set it aside for now, and we will always have the example of what we've tried to do to come back to and revisit when we see new draw.
Yeah, I generally agree with what you're saying, and I agree with Tierney's sentiment. I think when it's not working or it's run its course, then we shouldn't be a dead horse, and can always come back to it if we feel the need. However, I do have something to throw out there that I maybe we should ponder a little bit, especially the three of us coming from enterprise Node places.
Right.
I wonder about facilitating more of an online town hall. And what I'm envisioning is if we could have some moderators as well as people from Node Core and the platform, as well as people from like cloud providers, IBM, Microsoft, Google, AWS, what have you, be kind of available and try to facilitate questions and responses between end users who perhaps have different pain points. And again, I'm thinking a moderator would find and highlight ones that bring value to the conversation, not like when is little minute questions and whatnot. So I just wonder if there's a way to facilitate a broader conversation between end users, platform developers, as well as cloud providers, and kind of have a broader conversation that could be beneficial to all parties involved.
That sounds interesting, but we need to make sure that it's clearly distinguished from the Node.js help repo.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's already a place where users can come in and ask questions, and so it would need to be not I have this specific problem, but it's like more I have this macro problem, right?
Yeah, and that's why I'm mentioning like we would need to lean on moderators.
I don't see it as a hey, solve my today problem thing. It's more of a solve my I think this is going in the wrong direction, or that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a great idea. It's just something that popped in my head, and partially, to help cloud providers see what pain points people are having and what the community is asking for as well. To try and help a variety of people involved in the conversation.
Sure, and I like the idea largely in that it places a sort of active incentive with the organizers and participants to engage and participate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that seems interesting. It does sound a lot like the organ we've been grinding. So I want to flag that. Ava, are you in a place where you can chat? I know you're driving.
I think you have to re-promote her.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, Aguirre's on too.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Ava and Aguirre. So
here I am.
Hi, Ava.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in for whatever it's worth. We are also planning to do AMAs on different Node topics, which sounds a little bit like Joe's Town Hall, but slightly more specific. We're going to get questions in beforehand, and then we'll have a panelist with the moderator to answer questions, and then also to kind of have a conversation around whatever topic that is. And I think that we're even thinking about branching it out to other projects. We've been talking to jQuery, and they seem interested in doing one too. So I think we're going to do one with them also. So that is happening also.
Right. So Joe, just sort of take your thoughts there and thread them through. There's the AMAs, which is handling that sort of general forum, and it could be used as that sounding board for, is there deeper need, and do we need to do something about it? Then alongside of this initiative, the outreach initiative has been picking up steam. So a lot of what we did find in setting up the meetings and reaching out to meetup organizers is that those meetup organizers are very interested in getting content from the foundation and from other folks from around the world. So if we can help facilitate, if someone can help facilitate that, that's a need, and it's not. That's not really user feedback, but it is a it does take care of a lot of those end user needs.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The AMAs sound great too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I mean, I think your other idea is like another idea. It still comes back to like, do we have somebody who's gonna push on that front, or do we say, for now, let's let it, have a rest. And the other two things, like I think the user surveys, I think that's important to find a good home for, which is good. The enterprise one, I think we already have a Matt who's the champion. And the other piece, like I think we've tried out a number of different things, and unless we have somebody who's got the time and energy to think about what else we can try, like I'm kind of gotten to the point where it's like it's probably okay to take a break for a while, and then maybe a few months from now we have new ideas or new energy or whatever.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Great.
So Joe,
Good, Eva.
Sorry, quick question. So Joe, did I hear correctly that you are the one that's going to be the champion for getting that survey to go across all projects in the foundation?
Yeah, so my expectation is that the work that I've done on user feedback surveys is to try and build out a framework where it would be self-serve in terms of projects having specific survey needs.
Yep.
I don't know if we're there yet, so I'm still kind of on call for trying to help things go through. But the expectation is that, you know, we have an issue template that tries to clearly define what we would expect from a project wanting to initiate a survey. And then there may be a little bit of back and forth between the foundation and the survey requester to make sure that the questions are, you know, geared in a way that will solicit the best results for data, you know, in terms of getting data.
Yep.
And then the foundation would execute the survey and deliver the results back in a consumable format. So that's my expectation, and I'm happy to champion bringing that to the CPC, and then, you know, continue to champion it to kind of get it off the ground and make sure that it's running well, and then hopefully at a certain point it will be sort of self-serve, and the foundation can kind of just be the executors.
Okay, that sounds good.
Cool.
Joe, in you know, working through that, Joe, do you have the bandwidth to also you know, kind of do some of the paperwork, I guess, of inviting the enterprise group to the CPC?
What do you mean by that?
So the enterprise user feedback portion of the group is going to be championless, or going to lack a home, right? As I step down as champion of this effort, and there's no one continuing this effort, the enterprise group is, you know, still interested in continuing on, and you know, someone, I mean, maybe that's just Ahmed, would need to bring that proposal to the CPC. I'm sure, you know, Ahmed at the very least would appreciate, you know, someone to lean on.
I'm not sure that needs. Yeah, but I don't think that needs to change. So we could still say we have the enterprise user feedback group under ComCom. I'm happy to be, like, if we have Ahmad as the champion, if we need somebody on the ComCom that he can lean on, I'm happy to be that person.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. This still seems kind of node specific. If it is not node specific, then I would be happy to have that conversation to bring it up to the CPC. But to me, it still seems like a node specific thing, and keeping it under ComCom as its own team makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and there's no reason why we can't continue to use this repo, if that makes sense. I can't remember if there was a separate repo created. It's just that, you know, so basically we could
consolidated back.
It was okay. So basically we could just say, let's leave this repo as is. We're just going to deschedule the regular meetings, and the enterprise user feedback team can continue to use it.
Okay.
And, you know, we'll see how that goes. If there's some reason to change going forward, we could do that, right?
Then, all right. So the delta there is we would need someone to represent activities as they occur back to the community committee.
Right. And I'm happy to
Are you stepping up to do that?
I'm happy to do that.
Cool.
Great. Cool. That actually sounds like we've got some things figured out.
Okay. So I think I'll take the action that I can look at the calendar, and I'll just remove these meetings, right, is the main thing that we'll do for now.
Yes. Right. And, you know, then we should put a PR in to identify you as the community committee champion.
Sure. And
right?
Maybe with a slightly Yeah, I mean, I think we'd want to get Ahmad as the champion with me as the community committee rep or something. We've even had discussions about like how do we get the external champions in, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, we can do that as a first step, and it should just be. I think we should include Ahmad as the leader champion, right? And I'm just the link champion.
Cool.
You know what I mean? That makes sense, right?
Yeah,
I think
I do, and we should try to express that in a way that folks who are exploring this from the outside. To your point of mentioning that the CPC contact, who do they reach out to, right? If they have a question.
All right.
Great.
Okay.
Well, good. I think we can wrap it there. And thanks, everyone, for all the support. And look forward to seeing the next steps of this initiative and how it evolves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Progress.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Talk to everybody
All right.
later.
Have a lovely day.
Bye.
Bye.